Hi, my name is Malcolm Goff. I am an art teacher in Durham Public Schools. I taught for 22 years at E.K. Poe Elementary School. I am now the proud visual art teacher at Brogdon Middle School, and I'm creating this video for primarily my students, 6th to 8th grade, but also for anybody who just wants to see this method of portrait drawing that I'm about to show you. I'm going to try and post regular videos for my students, and like I said, anybody else who's interested. I'm also a professional artist and practicing artist, and try to do some things with you here. What I want to get to in this video is drawing a portrait just from your mind, but using the proportions and drawing it realistically, using a few mathematical rules actually, which I'll show you. Here I have some of the main things that you want to keep in mind when you're drawing a frontal portrait, right? And this is mostly realistic, right? Now, people use these techniques to draw other things like in styles that are maybe more cartoony. Manga, for example, is fairly realistic, but then also too, there's some stylistic things that set it apart. And you know, many comics and cartoons and just lots of drawing uses a fairly realistic approach, but then the artist will develop a stylistic thing that's different. And I want to encourage that, but what I'm trying to do with this lesson is just show you the very basics, the fundamentals of making this drawing of a frontal view of a person fairly realistically, okay? We're doing a frontal portrait in this picture. We've got to use this concept here of the line of bilateral symmetry, right? And I say that because a lot of times people just refer to it as the line of symmetry, which I understand, but I want you to mathematically understand that human beings and all mammals and many other animals as well, we have a type of symmetry in our bodies. The way we're designed is with what's called bilateral symmetry. We have two sides, right? We have a left side and we have a right side. Drawing it that using a guideline that has that shows that bilateral symmetry is very helpful. Okay, so let's start with that. All right, so on this paper right here, I'm going to try and keep it kind of straight. Okay, now that is our line of bilateral symmetry. So from this point, one side is going to be the left side and one side is going to be the right side. So I'm going to put that on here as well, okay? You might not want to do this in your picture, but I'm just putting it in here for educational purposes. So from my view as the artist, this is the left side of the drawing and this is the right side of the drawing. So I just put an L and an R there, okay? Now, that's our line of bilateral symmetry. Now, the next thing is the eye line, right? So this is the line in which in your skull, your eye sockets are, all right? Now, I'll edit in and show you how it works, but in the way our skulls are designed is that the eyes are right in the middle of your head, between the top of your head and your chin, right? The eyes are right in the middle. Now, a lot of kids in kindergarten and first grade, you know, think that your eyes are up here at the top of your head, and just, you know, they're not. They're in the middle of your head. And I've done countless measurements on kids to prove it to them that your eyes are pretty much in the middle of your head. Like if you actually measure from the top of your skull to your chin, they're right there in the middle, okay? So now on this line of bilateral symmetry here, if this is the top of the head and this is the chin, right, then I want to go right in the middle. So I'm going to, you could measure it with a ruler if you want, but as an artist, a lot of artists, we use what's called a measurement where we're just looking, right? And we're measuring it in a non-formal way. So you could call this non-formal measurement. Nevertheless, it's still pretty accurate. Okay, so I'm gonna use my fingers here and I'm gonna just measure from here to here. I'm guessing that that's about the middle of the line that I drew and here. So let's see if I put one finger here and here. Okay, so that's my non-formal measurement. That's about right. So I'm gonna put a little line right here. Okay, now remember, this line for our bilateral symmetry and then this line for our eye line are in green, and we're just trying to get an estimated place from which to draw the rest of our picture, okay? All right, now, I'm kind of done with the green marker for now. I'm gonna get into the other things, all right? Now, on this line here, where we have our bilateral symmetry and our eye line, the eyes are gonna go on the eye line right in the middle of it, okay? Of each section, right? And you also might notice that we have divided the face into 4 different quarters, right? And I have not drawn the outside of the face yet because that's a different technique. So I'm trying to show you a technique where you work on the inside of the face first, and then we'll get to the outside, okay? So we're gonna start with the middle and work our way out. Sometimes artists like to do it the opposite way as well. I'm gonna teach you the other way as well later, all right? So for this video, let's go in right here. All right, now, I put on here the third eye. The reason I put that is that we want to make some adjustments in what we're doing for when we're drawing, so that you have this room for what we call the third eye, okay? So if you were to measure your own eye like this, so from side to side, right, and then you measure your other eye, they're probably equal. The space in between is a third eye. For most people, it's the same measurement. I've definitely seen some examples where in real people where their space in between their eyes was either a little bit wider or a little bit narrower. And it's not like it's wrong. It's just that there's a lot of variation in people. But for the most part, that area in between the eyes is the same distance as one of the distances from side to side on your eye, okay? So I'm going to estimate that my eye that I'm gonna draw here will be about this big. And then I'm gonna put a point on each side here that spans the middle. So this distance here and this distance here should be about the same, okay? Now, I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna make a mark there, and let me go ahead and do it on the other side as well, here. Now notice that I'm going a little bit further. What I'm drawing is gonna end up being, the face will end up being a little bit bigger than the lines that I've drawn so far, partly because I didn't, I'm working from the inside out, okay? All right, so I'm gonna make a curve here that is approximately the same arc as a line of parentheses in writing, okay? And so then I'm gonna make it go the other way here. And that's one of my generic eyes for this person, okay? Remember, this is a very generic method that I'm teaching you right now. My students in my class, we talked about some very specific things about making the portraits look like specific people. So this is more of a generic view. All right, so there, now I have my 2 eyes, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and put in here the line for the pupil. Okay, so here and here. Now, understand that these curves that I just drew are the curves of the eyelid. And so the eyelid covers up part of your eye. Your eye is actually a ball, you know, it's inside underneath the skin of your eyelid and housed inside the socket of your skull, right? And so when we're drawing these these curves here, right? These are the curves for the eyelids, all right? Now, we've got that in place. Now we're gonna go to the eyebrows, and I want you to understand how the eyebrows are connected down to the nose, because your forehead comes out a little bit more than your eyes. And in my class, we talked a lot about the brain, which I'll also make some videos about that as well. But you know, your brain is protected by your skull, right? And so your skull kind of comes out a little bit further out than your eyes because of the way we're designed, right? And so the eyebrow actually protects the eyes from things like rain and like maybe sweat coming down from your head. It leads it off to the side. So we have eyebrows, right? That's a great thing. I'm glad we have them, right? But that brow connects to your nose, the top part of your nose, and of course the top part of your nose connects to the bottom part of your nose. And so we're gonna get that in there. So I'm gonna put some generic eyebrows in here, right? And so here, and we're gonna make the eyebrow above each eye, and it's gonna be about the same curve. Ooh, I messed up right there. That's all right though, we talk a lot about mess ups in my class. I'll fix that later. I'll make it kind of blend in, right? All right, now I want you to understand that these two eyebrows, right, are at the bottom of the brow part of our skull, right? And so now I'm gonna connect this down here. It's gonna come down like this, right? Now the question is, how far down? Like some people's noses are longer, some people's noses are shorter, but they all fall within certain mathematical ranges, right? And so the bottom of this nose should be around here. Now, if I'm looking at this line, which now this is probably not the chin, this should probably come down a little bit further. It's gonna be about half the distance from the eye line to the chin. Now, this is not the chin anymore, so let me adjust that real quick before I start to draw. I'm gonna make this come down a little bit further. I think about here. So now if that's half, then this has to come up higher as well. And I'm gonna have to adjust the top of this picture so that it will, it'll match evenly. So I'll go back later and I'll do that. I think this is where about the chin will be about, right? And so half of this distance, right? So if I'm measuring, I'll measure with my left hand, here to here, right? So this is about where the bottom of the nose will end up, okay? And so I'm gonna connect this eyebrow now. In fact, you know what, before I do that, I'm gonna do it the other way. I'm gonna make nostrils here real quick. And then that way, and then here's the sides of the nostrils. Here and here, right? And then, you know, you could stop there if you didn't want to have the nostril, like the sides of the nose show. It depends on the lighting, which we'll have a separate class later on lighting. But I want to go ahead and connect it on one side. So this is going to come up here and connect, or almost connect, right? I'm going to leave a little bit of space, right? And you could do it on the other side, but like I said, with lighting and shadows, I'm gonna leave the other side blank for right now because I'm gonna have one side have shadow, one side have a highlight, right? Now, if this is the chin right here of our person, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and draw that chin in, right? The mouth, the opening of the mouth is going to be approximately halfway between the bottom of the nose and the chin, okay? And so half of that, I'm gonna measure here, I'm going to say is right here, okay? And so I'm going to draw a line. Now, wait, before I do that though, I wanna show you another thing. Oh, I meant to turn this over too. Let me turn this over. Okay. Now we're looking at, we talked about the chin and the top of the head, and we're looking at the mouth now, right? Now, I want to show you a trick around judging approximately how wide the mouth should be, okay? So there's a little trick that a lot of artists do, and it ends up looking kind of like tears, but if you draw a straight line down from where the middle of the eye would be, like if the person's looking directly at us, right? And we draw a line coming down like that. And then if this is the middle on the other side, right? And then this comes down there, right? That's approximately how wide the mouth should be. Now, some people's mouths are wider, like I said. Some people's mouths are narrower, right? And so, you know, if you want to adjust it, if you feel like that measurement is too wide, go ahead and make it a little less wide, okay? But that's approximately where it should be, okay? So there. And now let's draw the lips. Now, you could just leave a line if you wanted, depending on how much detail you want. But I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit more detail in this. Now, a lot of times we have this little divot right here in the middle, kind of like directly under our nose, right? And so that's just a curve like this. And then from there comes out to the end on each side. There. And then the bottom lip is going to be about the same size. Okay, so I'm measuring. Now, some people's lips are different shapes, right? Some people's lips are thinner. Some people's lips are thicker. It all just depends on where your people are from, you know, your ancestry, right? And so now let's get into the, I put on here, we're going to get into the hairline next, but actually, let's get, before we get to that, let me go ahead and get the rest of the bottom part of the face drawn in at least, okay? So this person's chin is gonna come out a little further. It's gonna come up. And then I wanna do the same thing on this side. So I want the two sides to look the same. So I'm measuring here, and I'm gonna bring that measurement over here. And I'm gonna bring this down from here, and then I'm gonna come up this way. This was a technique I showed my kids in my classroom before we left for our emergency break, right? And so there we have the bottom. Now, I kind of feel like this person's, the drawing that I'm doing right now, the chin is a little bit short. So I think I might bring it down a little bit further. And if I were doing this in pencil, I would have had a little easier time. So I would have been able to erase. I feel like it should be maybe right about here. So this seems a little bit more realistic, because I don't think I've seen anybody with a chin that short, right? And so there. Now, what I would do if this were a pencil drawing is I would just erase this line right here. But since it's not, I could probably hide it in some other way. Maybe I could hide it in a beard, right? And then make that all kind of colored in so that the mistake was hidden. You know, you'd be surprised at how many times as artists we make mistakes and then we just find a way to hide it, you know? Also, another way you could hide it is just by having the shadow kind of go over it. Maybe you put like a little bandana in front or something like that, or maybe they've got, you know, a turtleneck on and it's pulled up a little bit over their chin. You know, there's ways artistically you can hide mistakes. That's what we do. All right, now I'm gonna bring this down a little bit further so that I can get to the top of this person's head. Now, if this is half now, that means the top of this person's head is like right here, where, almost where the clip is. All right, so now I'm gonna bring this curve here for the top of their head, and then this curve kind of coming this way. A couple of mistakes there. Again, if I were working in pencil, it'd be a lot easier to go back and fix my mistakes. All right, so this is a very general face right here. Now, let's get the ears in, okay? So if directly from a frontal view, right, your ears, if you touch your eyebrows, your ears are directly back on that line. So from here, back, right? And so, when we're drawing it, if it's from a direct frontal view, then you'll have the ears right here next to the eyebrows. So like this, here's the top of the ear, and I'm gonna do the top of the ear on the other side, here and here. Now, people have different length ears, right? And so you gotta decide, do your person's ears, are they lower? Do they come out a little bit more? Are they closer to their head, kind of tucked in close to their skull? That's all up to you because, I mean, there's a lot of variation in real people, okay? So I'm gonna make this person's ears come out about this far. Now, the trick will be making it the same distance on the other side, right? Because I don't know if I've seen anybody with ears that, like, there's a lot of variation in ears, but they usually match, you know, more or less. So let's see, I made it kind of go in a little bit on that side, so I'm doing the symmetrical thing on this side, all right? Now, the person could be bald, and they may not have any hair on the top of their head, and so the hairstyle is done, right? Because you drew the nice bald head there. Or I'm gonna also add on here the way to add hair using what we call a hairline. You understand there's a lot of variation in hairlines as well. Okay, just, you know, we got 9 billion people in the world right now. There's probably 9 billion different hairlines, okay? So usually what happens is there's a little bit of hair that comes out right here between the ear and the eye, right? And we call this the sideburn. If you have a full beard like me, then the sideburn connects into the beard, right? But for most people, they don't have a beard, right? And so there's the side of it right here is going to taper off. And so a lot of times the hairstyle will be kind of like on an angle like this. And so I kind of like to tell people if they're doing a generic style that it's kind of like a check mark, right? And then we'll do a check mark going the opposite direction on this side. So there we go. So there's that check mark. Now, the hairline's gonna come up, right? And somewhere across this area, either lower or higher, it's gonna come across. And depending on how the hair grows or, you know, what your barber did to your hair, if they were cutting your hair, right, then it's going to go across. Also, we'll talk about hairstyles regarding things like bangs and stuff like that, right? Let's give this person a widow's peak. So it's gonna come down in the middle a little bit right here, and then it's gonna go up again right here, and then it's gonna come over, okay? And so now this person has a hairline, okay? Maybe they have short hair, right? I'll probably do a separate lesson on hairstyles actually, because this is getting kind of long, right? Now let me go ahead and give this person, like I said, I'm gonna hide the mistake here on the bottom. Let me see here if I can adjust this. There we go. All right, so now I made that mistake. Let's go ahead and give them like a beard here. So this is gonna be part of their beard now. Is gonna be a male identified person with a beard. Or, I mean, whatever, man. Here, so here's this mustache. It's gonna kind of follow the line of the lip. It's gonna come down here, and then this is going to come, should I make it come up, or now I'll make it more of a goatee. All right, so they're not gonna have all this right here. It's just gonna be this, okay? So then, you know, that's gonna be their style, okay? So now it just comes up like this, and on that side, And there is your basic face, okay? So we'll do some other ones too with some different kinds of features, different kinds of hairstyles, but it's my first video for my digital learning. Hope you like it. Give me some feedback in the comments area. I want to do some live stuff as well, but I figured this first one, we'll just do it as a pre-recorded thing. All right. Take care, be creative, and be safe. Practice your social distancing, and love you. Stay hydrated. Peace.